Welcome to today's deep dive into global news. We're going to get you beyond the headlines.
Absolutely.
Get you to understand the WHY behind the what. And we've got a past lineup for you today.
Oh, we do.
Everything from political shakeups and economic trends and twists and turns to even some surprising tactics.
Absolutely. When we look at all the different news stories that are happening, it's really amazing to see how interconnected the world truly is.
Right.
So we're going to be exploring those connections, the ripple effects of decisions that are made in one corner of the globe on people thousands of miles away.
So let's jump right into a story that feels like a blast from the past.
Okay.
Trade wars. Former President Trump is back in the spotlight.
He is.
And this time, his sights are set on not just a single country, but entire economic blocks.
It's true. Trump is threatening Russia with high levels of tariffs unless Putin negotiates an end to the war in Ukraine, and he's even referencing his past relationship with Putin as a potential bargaining chip.
So that's really interesting because this comes on top of the existing sanctions that the Biden administration has imposed on Russia since the war began.
Precisely. So we're really witnessing layers of economic pressure building.
Okay.
To make things even more complex, Trump is also proposing a significant 100% tariff on all BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, if they attempt to move away from the U.S. dollar in international trade.
Wow. What kind of impact could these tariffs have on the global landscape?
Well, the potential consequences are substantial. Such actions could disrupt the delicate balance of global trade, potentially strengthening alliances within BRICS as they seek ways to counter these measures. It also raises the specter of a return to protectionist policies, a trend we've seen ebb and flow in recent history.
It makes you wonder about those unintended consequences.
For sure.
Speaking of the conflict in Ukraine, some of the tactics being employed are, well, let's just say creative.
Absolutely. Ukrainian forces have been using recordings of cat noises to lure Russian troops into traps.
Why?
Yes.
You're serious? Cat noises?
Cat noises.
Wow.
It's really quite amazing. It's a testament to the resourcefulness and adaptability of both sides in this ongoing conflict. And it's a stark reminder that even in the midst of war, the unexpected can emerge.
It's definitely a memorable tactic.
Yes.
Now, shifting gears to a story that is generating a lot of controversy here in the U.S.
All right.
Former President Trump is once again making waves, this time with an executive order aimed at birthright citizenship.
Yeah, this executive order seeks to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants and those on temporary visas, including H-1B holders. And it has triggered some immediate pushback, particularly from Indian American lawmakers who are arguing that it's unconstitutional and unfairly targets legal immigrants.
And there are legal challenges already underway, right?
Yes.
Multiple states have filed lawsuits to block this order from being implemented.
That is correct. This story has very significant legal and humanitarian implications. There are concerns that it could create a refugee crisis, leaving thousands who are already cleared to enter the U.S. in a state of limbo.
Wow.
It underscores the very real human cost of these policies and the uncertainty that they create.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that policies crafted in Washington have a ripple effect impacting individuals and families around the world.
Right.
Now let's shift our focus to airport safety, a topic that's always top of mind for travelers.
Okay.
South Korea is taking action following a recent plane crash. And it all comes down to what might seem like a minor detail: a concrete embankment.
You're referring to the tragic incident at Muan International Airport where a Jeju Airjet skidded off the runway and collided with a concrete embankment following the crash. South Korean authorities have decided to remove the embankment. They believe it actually worsened the impact, contributing to the loss of life.
So even seemingly small infrastructure elements can have significant consequences when it comes to safety.
Absolutely. This incident underscores the importance of thorough accident investigations and the constant evaluation and updating of safety regulations, not just in aviation, but across all types of infrastructure.
Right.
It's about proactively identifying potential hazards and taking steps to mitigate those risks.
Speaking of things that can cause a stir, let's discuss a rather peculiar incident involving the White House website and a document that's foundational to American democracy, the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, so imagine going to the White House website the day after a presidential inauguration, no less, and finding that the page dedicated to the U.S. Constitution is gone, just a 404-page not found error.
That's what happened after Trump's inauguration.
Yeah, that's right.
Naturally, it sparked a flurry of concern.
Of course.
And speculation, some bordering on conspiracy theories.
Yeah, while the White House quickly attributed it to an unintentional omission during a website update, the symbolism of the Constitution being missing, even temporarily, was really hard to ignore.
Right. It speaks volumes about the enduring power and significance of the Constitution.
It does.
And how even a seemingly technical glitch can trigger such a visceral reaction.
It's true.
Now let's turn our attention to the West Coast, where California is grappling with yet another challenge on top of the ongoing wildfires.
Right.
The threat of toxic runoff.
So Southern California is bracing for rain amidst these raging wildfires. And while rain might seem like a welcome relief, it brings with it a new set of dangers.
So the rain could trigger mudslides and debris flows?
Yes.
Which are dangerous enough.
Right.
But what about the toxic runoff from the burn areas? I imagine that could contaminate water sources.
Yeah.
And pose a serious threat to both human health and the environment.
You're absolutely right. The situation shines a light on the complex and interconnected nature of environmental challenges, particularly in the face of climate change, which is intensifying both wildfires and extreme weather events.
It's a stark reminder that the consequences of these disasters can extend far beyond the immediate crisis.
Yeah.
Now, let's zoom out to a global stage and talk about the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland.
Davos is underway, and as always, it's attracting a who's who of global leaders. CEOs and experts. This year's theme is Collaboration for the Intelligent Age. And there's some pretty weighty challenges on the agenda.
So they're tackling some of the biggest issues facing humanity, stimulating sustainable economic growth, navigating geopolitical shocks like the war in Ukraine.
That's right.
And ensuring a just and inclusive transition to renewable energy. It's like a global brainstorming session with incredibly high stakes.
Precisely. And these challenges are so complex and interconnected that they demand collaboration on a global scale. No single country or organization can solve them in isolation. It requires a collective effort to address these multifaceted issues effectively.
Speaking of global challenges, let's talk about a platform that has become a household name, TikTok. Remember when everyone thought it was going to be banned in the U.S.?
The story continues. So while President Trump delayed enforcing a complete ban, Congress passed a law requiring TikTok's Chinese owner to sell the app to a U.S.-approved buyer or face that ban.
So TikTok is stuck in a sort of limbo, and its future in the U.S. is still uncertain. This brings up some important questions about data privacy, national security, and the influence of Chinese tech companies in the West.
You've hit on some key points. It also highlights the ongoing debate about regulating social media platforms, balancing concerns about harmful content and misinformation with the right to free speech. It's a really complex issue with no easy answers, and one that will likely continue to generate headlines for a while.
Unfortunately, our next story takes us to Turkey, where tragedy has struck once again, this time in the form of a devastating fire.
A ski resort hotel in Turkey was engulfed in flames, resulting in a terrible loss of life. Dozens of people perished and many more were injured. This comes just months after the devastating earthquake that hit Turkey earlier this year.
Well, it's heartbreaking. It underscores the importance of fire safety regulations and emergency preparedness.
Right.
Especially in the aftermath of natural disasters, when vulnerabilities are often heightened.
Absolutely. It's about being prepared and vigilant and recognizing that safety measures are crucial, particularly as countries recover from major disasters, and the challenges faced by Turkey are ongoing, and this fire adds another layer of complexity to their recovery efforts.
Now let's turn our attention to the Middle East, where a fragile truce is currently in place between Israel and Hamas.
A ceasefire is indeed bringing a much-needed pause to the violence in Gaza. The ceasefire has allowed for the delivery of humanitarian aid and the exchange of hostages and prisoners. However, there's still significant uncertainty about its longevity.
Even former President Trump has expressed doubts about the ceasefire lasting, which adds another layer of uncertainty to an already tense situation.
It really does.
What are your thoughts?
Well, this situation underscores the deeply rooted and complex nature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Achieving a lasting peace is a long-term process that requires more than just a ceasefire. It demands a fundamental shift in attitudes and a genuine willingness to compromise from all sides. It's a story that has been unfolding for decades, and its resolution remains elusive.
Finally, we'll wrap up this segment of our deep dive with a story that has major implications for the global economy. China's shrinking population.
For decades, China's held the title of the world's most populous country, but that's changing.
Right.
China's population is declining, and this trend is raising concerns about the country's economic future.
So a shrinking workforce, coupled with an aging population, could significantly impact China's economic growth and stability, and we know these shifts will be felt far beyond China's borders.
Exactly. This demographic shift has the potential to reshape global trade and power dynamics. It's a development that warrants close attention in the years to come. The ripple effects could be felt across the globe.
We've covered a lot of ground already, from trade wars and unconventional warfare tactics
Right.
to the future of social media and heartbreaking tragedies. It's been a whirlwind of a deep dive so far.
What's striking is how these stories, despite appearing so different on the surface, are all interconnected. They highlight the complex web of global challenges we face today, from economic instability and geopolitical tensions to the ever-evolving landscape of technology.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll delve even deeper into these stories and explore their far-reaching implications.
And it's not just about understanding what's happening, it's about understanding why it's happening. Why is former President Trump taking such a hardline stance on trade? What's driving China's population decline, and how might that affect you? These are the questions we aim to unpack.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We're not here to just skim the surface. Let's dive deeper into that story about China's shrinking population, a story that, while seemingly distant, could have a very real impact on your life.
It's a fascinating phenomenon, really, for decades. China was the world's most populous nation, a powerhouse of growth and manufacturing, but the landscape is shifting. China's population is declining, and it's causing ripples throughout the global economy.
So break it down for me. What's at the root of this population decline, and why should we be concerned?
Well, there's a confluence of factors at play here. Decades of the one-child policy have undoubtedly had a lasting impact, but it's also about evolving social trends. Young people are delaying marriage and having fewer children, influenced in part by rising living costs and economic pressures.
So fewer babies today translate to a smaller workforce in the future.
Precisely, China is facing a shrinking workforce, which could lead to slower economic growth and even labor shortages in key sectors. At the same time, they're grappling with a rapidly aging population, which brings increased healthcare costs and a strain on social safety nets.
It sounds like a very challenging situation with no easy solutions. What kind of impact might this have on the average person? Should we be bracing for higher prices or job losses?
It's too early to say for certain, but those are definitely possibilities. As China's economic growth slows, we could see reduced demand for raw materials and manufactured goods impacting countries that rely heavily on trade with China. It's a domino effect.
And we can't forget about the potential for increased global competition as other countries try to step into the void left by a slowing Chinese economy. This is a story that we'll need to keep a close eye on. Now let's shift our attention to a topic that's been generating heated debate here in the U.S., the potential end of birthright citizenship.
This executive order from former President Trump is raising some fundamental questions about what it means to be an American citizen. It's a debate that cuts to the very core of national identity.
It seems like a lot of people are surprised that this is even a possibility. Isn't birthright citizenship guaranteed by the Constitution?
That's the crux of the debate. The 14th Amendment grants citizenship to anyone born or naturalized in the United States, but the interpretation of that amendment is what's being contested. It's a legal and philosophical battleground.
So former President Trump's argument is that this amendment doesn't apply to children of undocumented immigrants or those on temporary visas.
That's right. He is attempting to redefine who qualifies for birthright citizenship through this executive order. But as we discussed earlier, this is facing a wave of legal challenges, with many arguing that it oversteps presidential authority and contradicts the Constitution.
This isn't just a legal issue, though. It's a deeply personal one. For many families, we're talking about children who were born here, who grew up here, who consider themselves American.
Absolutely. This executive order has the potential to disrupt the lives of countless individuals and families. It raises broader questions about inclusivity, belonging, and what it truly means to be an American in today's world. It's a debate that's far from over.
It will certainly continue to generate headlines and spark legal battles in the months to come. Now, let's shift our focus to a region that's been grappling with conflict and instability for far too long, the Middle East.
The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is still holding, but as we mentioned earlier, even former President Trump has expressed doubts about how long it will last. It's a delicate situation with a long and complex history.
What are the factors that could either strengthen this truce or lead to its collapse? What should we be watching for?
Well, one key factor is the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The ceasefire has created a window for much-needed supplies to reach the people of Gaza. But if those deliveries are interrupted or delayed, tensions could easily flare up again.
The prisoner exchange is another crucial element. Hamas is demanding the release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. If those demands aren't met, it could jeopardize the ceasefire.
And we can't overlook the role of external actors. Countries like Egypt and the U.S. have played a key role in mediating this ceasefire, but their influence is limited, and other actors like Iran could potentially undermine the truce. It's a geopolitical chess game with incredibly high stakes.
So even with the ceasefire in place, the situation remains incredibly fragile. The underlying issues that have fueled this conflict for decades, land disputes, security concerns, deep political divisions remain unresolved.
It's a stark reminder that achieving lasting peace in the Middle East is an extraordinarily complex and long-term process. It requires not just a ceasefire, but a fundamental shift in attitudes and a willingness to compromise on all sides.
Let's move on to a story that might seem a bit lighter on the surface, but actually touches on some very important issues, the ongoing saga of TikTok in the U.S.
Right, remember, this isn't just about whether you enjoy watching dance videos or not. This is about data privacy, national security, and the role of Chinese tech companies in the West. It's about the balance of power in the digital age.
It's a story full of twists and turns, from the initial threats of a ban to the current delay and the requirement for TikTok's Chinese owner to sell the app. Where do things stand now and what's at stake?
Well, the ban has been delayed, but it's not off the table entirely. Congress passed a law requiring TikTok's Chinese owner to sell the app to a U.S.-approved buyer, and that process is still in progress. It's a high-stakes negotiation with implications for the future of social media.
But even if TikTok finds a new owner, the concerns about data privacy and security won't just vanish overnight, right? What are the broader implications here?
Absolutely. The debate about how to regulate social media platforms is far from settled. We're grappling with questions about what data these companies can collect, how to prevent the spread of misinformation, and how to balance content moderation with the right to free speech. These are fundamental questions about the future of the internet.
These issues extend far beyond TikTok. We're seeing similar debates play out with other social media giants like Facebook and Twitter. It's about how we navigate the digital landscape and protect our privacy in an increasingly interconnected world.
It's about the power these platforms wield and how we ensure that power is used responsibly. It's a conversation that will continue to evolve as technology advances and our relationship with social media changes.
Let's shift gears now to a story that highlights the crucial importance of safety regulations and the potentially devastating consequences of overlooking them. We're talking about the tragic plane crash in South Korea and the decision to remove that concrete embankment at Muan International Airport.
This incident serves as a stark reminder that even seemingly minor infrastructure details can have major safety implications. It's a lesson that resonates far beyond the aviation industry.
Yeah, it's easy to dismiss safety regulations as bureaucratic red tape. But in this case, that concrete embankment likely played a role in the loss of 179 lives. It's a sobering reminder that these regulations are there for a reason, to protect lives.
The accident also underscores the importance of thorough investigations and a willingness to learn from mistakes by removing the embankment. South Korean authorities are taking concrete steps to prevent a similar tragedy from happening again. It's about accountability and continuous improvement.
This incident also connects to a larger conversation about infrastructure safety around the world. We've seen bridges collapse, buildings crumble, and transportation systems fail, often with tragic consequences.
These incidents underscore the critical need for constant vigilance, rigorous inspections, and a commitment to investing in and maintaining safe and reliable infrastructure. It's not just about preventing disasters, it's about protecting human lives. It's a shared responsibility.
It's a responsibility that governments and corporations need to take seriously. Now let's turn our attention to a story that, while seemingly insignificant, actually reveals a lot about the anxieties and tensions simmering beneath the surface of American society. The missing Constitution from the White House website.
It was a technical error, a website glitch, but the symbolism was powerful. The fact that it happened to be the Constitution that went missing and that it occurred immediately after Trump's inauguration amplified the impact of this incident.
Yeah, it's like the saying, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But in this case, the missing Constitution became a focal point for anxieties about the direction of the country.
You're right. It tapped into existing fears about the erosion of democratic norms, the fragility of institutions, and the potential for a leader to disregard the very document that underpins American democracy. It became a symbol of a deeper unease.
It's a reminder that symbols hold power, and even seemingly minor events can take on a life of their own in a charged political climate. Let's turn our attention now to California, where the state is facing a double whammy of natural disasters, wildfires, followed by the threat of toxic runoff.
It's a stark example of how climate change is intensifying both wildfires and extreme weather events, creating a dangerous and interconnected cycle of destruction.
So it's not just about battling the flames, it's about dealing with the long-term consequences of these fires, including the potential for contaminated water sources and widespread environmental damage. It's a multi-layered problem.
Right. While rain might seem like a welcome reprieve, it also carries the risk of washing ash debris and harmful chemicals into rivers, lakes, and even groundwater.
That raises serious concerns about public health, especially in communities that depend on those water sources for drinking and irrigation. It's a complex challenge with far-reaching implications.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the impacts of climate change are multifaceted and demand comprehensive solutions that address both the immediate crisis and the long-term consequences. It's a global challenge that requires global cooperation.
Now let's shift our focus to Davos, Switzerland, where the World Economic Forum is in full swing. It's an event that brings together some of the most powerful and influential people on the planet.
While some may dismiss Davos as simply a gathering of elites, it's also a unique opportunity to gain insight into the larger picture, the global trends and challenges that are shaping our world. It's a forum for dialogue and collaboration on a global scale.
This year's theme is Collaboration for the Intelligent Age. What exactly does that mean, and what are the key issues on their agenda?
Collaboration for the Intelligent Age speaks to the recognition that we live in an increasingly complex and interconnected world. The challenges we face, such as climate change, economic inequality, and technological disruption, cannot be effectively addressed by any single country or organization acting alone. It requires a global effort.
So it's about acknowledging our interconnectedness and finding ways to cooperate to create solutions. What are some of the specific issues they're focusing on?
Some of the key items on the agenda include stimulating sustainable economic growth, addressing geopolitical shocks like the war in Ukraine, and ensuring a just and inclusive transition to renewable energy. These are ambitious goals that demand innovative solutions and collaboration on a global scale.
It's a tall order, to be sure. Are they making any tangible progress on these issues?
It's still early in the week, but there's a palpable sense of urgency and a recognition that the stakes are high. There's also a growing awareness that solutions must be inclusive and equitable, addressing the root causes of these challenges, rather than just applying Band-Aids.
So it's not just about quick fixes, it's about systemic change. It's about rethinking our approaches to global challenges and finding sustainable solutions.
Exactly. It's about transforming our systems and institutions to create a more sustainable and just world for everyone. Whether Davos can successfully deliver on these ambitious goals remains to be seen. But it's a vital conversation that needs to be happening.
Now let's return to a story that's been dominating headlines, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and former President Trump's unconventional approach to ending it. It's a situation that's garnered a lot of attention and sparked debate.
Former President Trump has threatened Russia with high levels of tariffs unless Putin agrees to end the war. He's even suggested that his past relationship with Putin might give him leverage in this situation. It's a bold tactic, to say the least.
It's certainly an unconventional approach. Some people argue that it's a risky escalation that could backfire, while others believe it's a necessary step given the horrific human cost of the war. What are your thoughts on this strategy?
It's difficult to predict how effective this approach will be. It's unclear whether it will have any real impact on Putin's decision-making. However, it raises important questions about the role of economic pressure in international diplomacy.
It also highlights the complex and often unpredictable nature of global politics in a world where alliances are shifting and traditional power structures are being challenged. It's harder than ever to anticipate how events will unfold. It's a reminder that we're living in a time of great uncertainty and change, and we need to be prepared for the unexpected.
It's a theme that's woven throughout the stories we've discussed today, from economic shifts and political upheavals to technological disruptions. We're witnessing a world in flux. The one constant is change, and it's happening at an accelerated pace.
It underscores the importance of staying informed, engaging in critical thinking, and adapting to the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. This is just part 2 of our deep dive. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll continue to explore these complex issues and their implications for the future. It's amazing to see how events on one side of the globe can trigger a chain reaction, impacting lives and economies far away.
It really is a stark reminder of how interconnected our world truly is. But, before we get lost in the complexities of global affairs,
Yeah.
let's turn to a story that offers a glimmer of hope amidst the turbulence.
Okay.
The ski resort fire in Turkey.
This tragedy coming so soon after the devastating earthquake has left many wondering how such a devastating event could occur. It's heartbreaking to think of the lives lost and the families impacted.
It is, and it's important to remember that the earthquake undoubtedly put a strain on resources,
Yeah.
making it incredibly challenging to respond effectively to another crisis.
Right.
But this tragedy also raises crucial questions about fire safety regulations and emergency preparedness, not just in Turkey, but around the world.
It's like a wake-up call, isn't it?
It is.
Prompting us to reflect on the measures we have in place to prevent such tragedies. It makes you think, are we doing enough to mitigate risks and protect lives, especially in the face of natural disasters?
Yeah, it's about preparedness, vigilance, and learning from past mistakes, investing in robust fire suppression systems, conducting thorough safety inspections, and providing comprehensive evacuation training are all crucial steps.
Right. It's about turning grief into action and using these difficult experiences as catalysts for change. By implementing better safety protocols, we can strive to create a safer and more resilient future. And this message extends far beyond the slopes of that Turkish ski resort.
Absolutely. Whether we're talking about natural disasters, political conflicts, or economic upheavals, we have a collective responsibility to learn from the past and take proactive steps to shape a better future.
And that action doesn't have to be grandiose or sweeping. It can begin with small individual steps. Staying informed, engaging in thoughtful conversations, and advocating for positive change within our communities are all valuable contributions.
Yeah, it's about recognizing our individual power to make a difference. However small it may seem, collective action starts with individual awareness and initiative.
That's a powerful thought. Well, I think it's time to bring this whirlwind deep dive to a close. We've explored a vast landscape of news today, traversing through trade wars, political maneuvering, the ever-evolving world of social media, and heartbreaking tragedies.
Right.
But the common thread that binds these stories together is the need to understand, to connect the dots, and to recognize that we're all part of a complex and ever-changing global landscape.
It's true. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information and the scale of the challenges we face. But as we've seen today, there are also reasons for hope. There are dedicated individuals and organizations working tirelessly to address these issues, striving to build a more just and sustainable world.
And that gives me hope. It's inspiring to know that there are people out there who are committed to making a positive impact.
As you go about your day, take a moment to reflect on the stories we've discussed today. Consider their implications and ask yourself, what role do I want to play in shaping the future?
What global issue resonates most deeply with you? And what steps can you take to contribute to the solution? It's a question worth pondering. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.